Hello, happy Friday, Saturday, wherever you are in the world. Have a wonderful weekend. Fleega day. Amazon. Flash briefing.
Jamie,
Veterans
here's the latest
Day.
from your flash briefing. In NPR News.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. As Republican hopefuls jockey for position in a presidential primary race dominated by former President Trump, Democrats have begun the formal steps required for their races, with the Biden-Harris ticket focusing on the state of South Carolina. That's where Vice President Kamala Harris is this morning, and NPR's Asma Khalid reports.
Harris is in Columbia to file paperwork for President Biden's name to appear on the Democratic primary ballot in South Carolina. Democrats moved South Carolina to the start of the new primary calendar.
Big-time joke.
It's a state that resuscitated Biden's campaign in 2020, and the state's large base of black voters were key to Biden's victory that year. Harris is joined by South Carolina Congressman Jim Clyburn, who's long been a close ally of the
Man should
administration.
retire.
This
We're
trip
not even
comes
sure
on the
if he's
heels of
competent enough
Tuesday's
to
off-year
put on and
election
tie his own
that
shoes.
showed some strengths for Democrats, but also, as polls show, voters
Y'all
are
just gonna
concerned
humiliate
about
the
the
man. That's all
economy
you gonna
and the
do.
president's
As if that
age.
can be done more.
Asma Khalid, NPR News.
In the Gaza Strip, home to 2.3 million residents, Israeli troops are pushing deeper into dense urban neighborhoods, engaging Hamas militants in gun battles there. Increasing numbers of civilians are fleeing south. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken addressed the Israel-Hamas war while on a trip to India. NPR's Lauren Frayer reports.
Secretary of State Blinken says, quote, far too many Palestinians have died. Speaking in New Delhi, he said the U.S. appreciates Israel's steps to minimize civilian casualties, but that more needs to be done. Israel says it's pausing airstrikes in certain areas for a few hours daily.
Israel
to allow
wants to
tens of
take the
thousands of people to
entire
flee from
area,
northern Gaza
run
to
the
the
people
south.
out,
A
and
United
claim
Nations
that it's
spokesperson
theirs,
in Gaza
that they were
says more
ran
than
out
half
for
of the Strip's 2.3 million
2,000,
residents have been
20,000 years
displaced.
ago, man.
Gaza health officials say about 11,000 have been killed.
NPR's Lauren Frayer reported from Tel Aviv. Stocks opened higher this morning as investors digest hawkish comments from the leader of the Federal Reserve. NPR's Scott Horsley reports.
Fed Chairman Jerome Powell cautioned this week that interest rates may have to go higher, bring inflation down to the central bank's target of 2%. Powell says he and his colleagues have ratified that prices are not climbing as fast as they had been, but they're wary about head fakes and the possibility that strong economic growth could spark renewed inflation. Nevertheless, investors are betting the Fed will hold short-term interest rates steady when it meets next month. Long-term rates have also cooled a bit. Freddie Mac says the average rate on a 30-year mortgage this week is 7.5%, down about a quarter point from a week ago. Unionized casino workers in Las Vegas have reached a deal with the last of three big gaming companies just hours ahead of a strike deadline. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The Dow is up 54 points, the NASDAQ up 70. This is NPR News. Immigration on the U.S. southern border is at an all-time high. Officials say they encountered over 2.4 million people in the last year. NPR's Jasmine Guards reports.
Officials have said one reason for the surge: the number of displaced people around the world has never been this high, according to the UN. In Tijuana, at a line to request asylum in the U.S., a man named Piotr says he took his two teenage boys out of Russia because of the war.
Russia is so difficult. I can't describe it. It's so difficult for me. Catastrophe.
The Biden administration's immigration policy has been twofold. On the one hand, it punishes most people who cross the border without papers. On the other, it has attempted to expand legal pathways for entry. The administration has also said it will build up to 20 miles of border barrier and has resumed deportation flights to Venezuela. Jasmine Garst, NPR News, Tijuana, Mexico.
Commercial winds cooled for spirits and beer giant Diageo today after it advised investors business in some parts of the world was skidding. In early London trading, share prices fell 14%, worth billions in market value. The brand, with dozens of familiar labels, including Johnnie Walker, Smirnoff, and Guinness, told investors that global pressures had impacted sales in certain regions, like the Middle East and also Latin America and the Caribbean, where cash-strapped customers were downtrading to cheaper products. I'm Louise Schiavone, NPR News, Washington.
In NASA news, the SpaceX 29 commercial resupply spacecraft will deliver numerous physical sciences and space biology experiments, along with other cargo, to the International Space Station. The research aboard this resupply service's mission will help researchers learn how humans and the plants needed to sustain them